Vivek Ramaswamy destroys Al Sharpton on live television. The corrumpated old man decided to counter Vivek with something and lost. Let's get to the bottom of this together.
Have you taken any time to reflect upon the possibility that comparing your political rivals to murderous terrorists might put their lives in danger at a time when hate crimes are on the rise? Or do you just don't care?
So Reverend Sharpton, I don't look at the world through political parties. Frankly, it's good to see it's been 20 years since we last spoke. And part of the reason that I came to that event 20 years ago with you is that you were a political outsider just like I am in my own party. But let me talk about the issue you're actually asking about, which is that, you know, what's toxic about that old world view of organizations like the KKK, which have been a god-awful stain on our national history, is that they say that your skin color determines what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to think. To say you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told because you're black or brown-skinned.
You know, that's an interesting point of view. American ideals haven't gone anywhere, and Donald Trump, if he wins the election, will breathe new life into them. Such a public statement was made before the voters by former U.S. presidential candidate from the Republican Party, Vivek Ramaswamy. According to the politician, only Trump is capable of returning America to its traditional values. To do this, he should relentlessly tell people the truth every time. According to Ramaswamy, the truth lies, in particular, in the fact that there are only two genders, male and female, and black racism is also racism, which is no better than white racism.
If your own companies, DEI, diversity, I would hope we can agree that historically many communities of color have not enjoyed the same socio-economic benefits as white Americans, and many of those disparities persist to this day. What specifically would you do as president to address that problem, keeping in mind your own company got diversity business?
Yeah, so I want to be very clear about that. After I stepped down as CEO, precisely to speak my mind freely, the company that I founded went the direction of most companies in corporate America. And I disagree with that decision. But you're asking a more important question about what are we going to do to ensure equality of opportunity in this country. You're right. We have been an imperfect nation. I've always said it. But we aspire towards perfection. How do we go that next step? I want to make sure kids aren't trapped in the ghetto of a zip code that they happen to be born in. To the contrary, I think every parent deserves to have the opportunity to send their kids to the best possible school. That's why I favor radical school choice in this country. I think it's a mystery, Reverend Sharpton. The very people who will wax eloquent about systemic racism are also the ones who are opposed to educational mobility. That's why I've said shut down the U.S. Department of Education. Use that $80 billion. Put it in the hands of parents so they can actually send their kids to that best possible school they can. That's the actual civil rights issue of our time.
Host Al Sharpton asks the wrong questions, but Ramaswamy gives a cool answer. He emphasized that he wants to change the education system and achieve racial equality in our country. It exists on a piece of paper, and we need to make sure that everyone is convinced that it's real. In his opinion, only parents have the right to decide what their children will study, and people have not yet invented a more perfect form of existence than the traditional family.
Confront it.
Let me ask you one last question. We're out of time.
And that's how we unite this country.
One thing we have in common with Trump is you've been criticized for trafficking in conspiracy theories. So here goes, do you believe, let me ask you this, because you and Trump have both been accused of trafficking conspiracy theories. Do you believe Barack Obama was born in the United States, and do you think it was appropriate for Trump to suggest to otherwise, even as evidence mounted, that the claim was a lie?
I think I have every reason to believe Obama was born in the U.S., and I have never brought up that issue, and I have no idea why we're actually discussing that. But what I have talked about is, for example, Saudi Arabia was absolutely involved in 9/11, despite the fact that our government refused to acknowledge it. That COVID-19 did originate in a lab in China, despite the fact that our government called that a conspiracy theory. That we still haven't seen the transgender shooter manifesto out of Nashville. So those aren't conspiracy theories. Those are conspiracy realities.
It was an interesting debate where Ramaswamy clearly won. He answered the presenters' questions clearly and concisely, and I liked his point point of view, from which I will take my point of view. Ramaswamy said that Americans should realize that the national border cannot be open to all comers. Earlier, the former presidential candidate said he was ending his involvement in the campaign. Many suggest that now he has a good chance to become the new vice president of America if Trump becomes the head of state. Ramaswamy is now actively supporting him. What do you think about this? Write your opinion in the comments and don't forget to watch other shocking news on the channel.